Hello, everyone. Welcome to another pre-show. I hope you've had
Oh,
a happy Holy Week.
I hope so. And an amazing Easter. Judging by the bunny suits everyone's wearing, I presume they did.
Yeah, gotta love those bunny suits.
I am amazed. I've never seen that many bunny suits in one place at one time. I don't know that I would call it elegant. It's certainly unusual.
Reminds me of a Christmas story, right? Where
Yeah.
Ralphie is dressed up in a bunny suit at the end. It's just like
His
that.
his aunt gives him a bunny suit. And the other thing is you'll notice that several of them are clutching eggs or baskets filled with eggs
Mm.
and chocolates.
Yep.
So they brought their Easter baskets to the show.
It's very nice, very nice. Did you used to do Easter egg hunts for Easter?
Oh, I'll say.
What like were they actual eggs or were they like plastic eggs, hollow plastic
Well,
eggs with stuff inside?
we occasionally would go off to other places, colleges and so forth, and hunt hard-boiled eggs that were colored. But um, for the time I was, I don't know, 9 or 10 or 8, something like that, I'd wake up and there would be a note by my bed telling me to go to a certain room, a certain piece of furniture. And there'd be a note there which would tell me to go elsewhere. It'd take me all over the house and then out into the backyard and all around, hither and yon, backwards and forwards, until finally it would take me to the Easter basket.
Nice. What's in the Easter basket then?
Oh, chocolate candy and Easter eggs and stuff like that.
Was there one for you and your brother?
Well, by that time, my brother's 7 years older.
Yeah.
So by that time, the money kind of, when my brother started hanging out with his friends immediately after Easter Mass, the bunnies stopped coming for him.
Oh, yeah. He was in the cool kids crowd then.
Yeah, and the bunny had no time for it.
Yeah,
Bunny has no time for cool kids.
makes
And
sense.
see, the other thing is that when I was quite little and we were living in New York, one of my earliest memories, and this has got to be, I guess, 63 or 64, we had spent Easter in town, in the city, in our apartment in the city. And I opened the door, and there were two baskets outside. Well, that's just great.
Hmm.
And when my parents awoke and I asked them what the story was, they said the Easter Bunny had brought them. The next day, I ran to the door, and to my horror, there were just a couple of bottles of milk.
Ugh.
And that was all there was for like a year. Whether it was the country or the city, whether it was out of Mount Kisco or in Manhattan, same thing, was milk and not Easter baskets until the whole year had passed. I thought that was very bad.
Up to what time did they deliver milk like that?
Well, I don't know because we got milk delivered like that back east. We didn't have it like that when we came to California. So I don't know. They must have done it in California. I mean, they had the Helms Bakery truck when I was a boy that delivered. If you were on the Helms Bakery list, they delivered bread and cakes and stuff that were made by the Helms Company. They had a truck that would make its rounds in certain areas and drop them off. So they must have had milkmen too, but I don't think we ever used a milkman in LA, so I can't tell you. And because we weren't in New York, I can't tell you when the milkmen stopped coming, if indeed they ever did. Uh, I don't know. Maybe some of our studio audience know if milkmen still come. I don't know.
It seems like milk would be expensive back then. I mean, do you have to use a different glass can every time, or do you recycle the glass can or give
You
it back to
recycled
them?
them. You recycled them. You gave them back.
Hmm. Wow. You.
And now, mind you, at the same time, my parents had a friend named Elmer Russ, who was a fairly well-known composer of music in those days. And I mention him because he wrote a song that became part of our family Easter observance.
Okay.
The only line I remember went, Don't throw rocks at the rabbit, or he'll bring rotten eggs home to you.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, we thought so. So we never threw rocks at the rabbit,
That's good.
especially when we saw him clutching his little basket filled with eggs. But what we thought was amazing was that it was the one day of the year that rabbits lay eggs.
Oh, you're giving me horrible, horrible flashbacks to last Easter,
What?
where I think I named last Easter's episode "Lucky Rabbit's Foot"
Yeah.
because you wanted to saw off the Easter Bunny's leg as a good luck charm,
Oh, yeah,
or
it's a
something like
rabbit's
that.
foot. Don't you think the Easter Bunny's foot would be the luckiest of all rabbits' feet in the world?
That's savage. How
No,
could
it's
you
good
do
luck.
that?
It's utilitarian. It's the greatest good for the greatest number.
It's like cutting off Santa Claus's arm or something.
That too.
You're a monster.
But
I can't.
no, Santa Claus's arm doesn't bring good luck. Anybody knows that's silly. But a rabbit's foot does. And if a rabbit's foot brings luck, obviously the Easter Bunny's foot brings the most luck. Anybody could tell you that.
I'm gonna
All
call
right,
PETA on you.
let's make this real simple. Yeah, Peter Cottontail, I know. Let's make this let's make this real simple. All right? We're going to make a syllogism out of this, a Latin syllogism.
Okay.
All right. Major premise. Rabbit's feet are lucky.
Rabbit's feet are lucky.
All right.
Yes.
Minor premise. The Easter Bunny's a rabbit.
Okay, I agree.
Conclusion. The Easter Bunny's foot is lucky.
Okay, yes.
All right. Now we can extend it further.
Okay.
A natural bunny rabbit's foot is lucky.
Not really. I mean, that's not how it really works.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, you
A
don't.
natural rabbit's foot is lucky.
People.
You already admitted that rabbit's feet are lucky.
I mean, people don't go around harvesting rabbit's feet like ivory tusks, like for the sake of having
No, they
lucky
don't
rabbit
cost nearly
feet.
as much. There's so many more bunnies. The price isn't anything like ivory. But so the natural bunny's foot is lucky. The Easter rabbit is a supernatural bunny. Therefore, his foot is supernaturally lucky. See, unlike other bunnies, it grows back.
I don't accept your premises.
You didn't have a problem with them a second ago. Why are you suddenly changing horses in midstream? Are you feeling unstable? Are you all right?
Yeah, you're making me unstable.
No, this is Easter Monday, and you're throwing insults at me. That's not nice.
Well,
you should be sitting back.
Says
with
the
a
person
tummy
who
full
wants
of
to saw
chocolate.
off bunny's legs for the sake of a lucky trinket.
Yeah, but they're going to grow back. It's the Easter Bunny I'm talking about.
I don't think it works like that.
Of course it does. The Easter Bunny can do all kinds of things other bunnies can't. They can't lay eggs, can they? He can. Got you there, smart guy.
All right, let's go on to the questions. This has been enough drivel. All right.
Drivel?
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. Drivel, indeed. Let me ask you a question. When did the Easter Bunny start coming for you as a little one?
As young as I can remember.
When did he stop coming?
Ooh. Well, I mean, that's a good question. Maybe 4th grade or something? I don't know. I mean, it doesn't work exactly like that. It's not like the same sort of thing as Santa Claus. I mean,
well, all right. Which of the 3 nursery spirit inhabitants would you rather spend quality time with, say over a drink? You know, a couple of martinis at down at Musso's or something. Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, or the Tooth Fairy? Couple of
Santa
cocktails,
Claus.
kicking back.
Santa Claus.
Santa?
Drinking with Saint Nick.
So
Who wants to drink with a rabbit? That'd be weird, man.
Well, what about the Tooth Fairy?
That's weird.
So how about the Sandman?
The Sandman? The Sandman is a villain in Spider-Man, so no.
Well, no, but I mean, in children's lore, he's just the fellow who
lore.
puts you to beddy by. Makes you sleep.
No, he can be scary, like Metallica's song Enter Sandman.
Okay, fine. How about the Boogeyman? Would you want to drink with the Boogeyman?
Definitely not.
So basically, in your order of preference, Santa's first. I guess the Tooth Fairy comes second because you're obviously an anti-bunny boozer. You won't booze it up with bunnies.
Right.
The Easter Bunny you won't booze it up with because he's a bunny and you're a racist. The Sandman you're frightened of because of a comic book, and you just don't like the Boogeyman on general principles.
Yeah.
Can you think of anybody besides those 5 that children have to deal with?
Oh. I don't know. No, I don't think so.
I think that's pretty much the full complement.
Yeah. So.
Which of the bunch do you think is the most powerful?
Okay, enough. This is enough. This is ridiculous. What? You're just pushing me to the limit.
What are you talking about?
You're not going to end. You're not using your time economically. And
all right, fine. Last question, and then we'll go on to their questions.
All right.
Okay?
All right.
All right. Santa Claus versus the Boogeyman. Wager.
What kind of weapons do they have?
Fists. Or whatever the Boogeyman has at the end of his...
Boogeyman.
Boogeyman over Santa Claus?
Yeah.
You've got to be kidding me.
Boogeyman has a reputation.
Okay, Boogeyman versus Sandman.
Boogeyman. You want to mess with the Boogeyman, man.
Boogeyman versus Easter Bunny.
Boogeyman.
All right, Boogeyman versus Tooth Fairy.
Tooth Fairy. Because Tooth Fairy can just go like that. Wave the magic wand and then poof.
The Boogeyman would be sorry he was ever, whatever brought him into being.
All right, Charles. I can sense the patrons getting restless with this banter. So we're going to do the questions.
Banter? We're exploring the childhood psyche. And what better time than Easter? When all of us, in some sense, are enjoying the childlike outpouring of the dreams of children. To see the glow in little eyes and the smile on little mouths when they see those baskets filled with goodies. And they see the little chicks and the little bunnies and the little puppies and the flowers and the baskets and stuff.
Okay, now you're trying to poison me, and I resent that.
Saccharin poisoning, perhaps. All right, fine. Be that way. Move on to the questions. I don't care.
All right.
Oh, man. All right.
All right. First question is from Drew.
Drew.
Hello, Mr. Frankini and Mr. Coulombe. Thank you for what you do. You provide incredible content and a sober analysis of the state of the world and the church while managing to avoid cynicism.
See, we've just been doing that, and you started squawking.
This is something I have looked for in commentary for a long time, and I greatly commend you for providing it.
See? See? And you call it useless banter. This is non-cynical commentary on issues facing church and state today. What do you think would happen if President Biden was sitting in the Oval Office and suddenly Santa Claus, the Tooth Fairy, the Easter Bunny, the Sandman, and the Boogeyman all came in at once. What would happen then, I ask you?
I don't want to know.
And the Great Pumpkin.
Hmm.
Yeah, got you there, smart guy. This is the kind of hard-hitting analysis that you just don't find on other podcasts.
Okay.
All right.
I'm tempted to respond to things, but then the other part of me says, "Don't engage. Don't engage. Don't say
You're afraid
anything."
of going down the rabbit hole, aren't you?
I am always afraid to go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, but what about an Easter bunny hole? You might find eggs at the bottom.
Could Charles please speak on Cecil Rhodes, the Round Table, and Milner's Kindergarten? Additionally, should any credence be given to these organizations pushing Britain into World War I? Obviously, the assassination of Franz Ferdinand and the ensuing events are far too complex to assign to a single cause. But does Charles believe that the start of World War I was more of a historical accident, or something at least in part initiated by the elites of various Allied countries who disliked the speed of Prussian ascendancy?
Well, there's a lot to unpack there. I mean, firstly, there are Easter eggs that have to be taken out of the baskets. No? No Easter eggs?
No Easter eggs.
Okay, fine. Cecil Rhodes was an interesting character. An Englishman. He made his money in mines and so forth in South Africa, but he devoted his, by then, not inconsiderable fortune to several causes. One was the expansion of the British Empire in South Africa. So he was a great supporter not just of British annexation of the Transvaal and the Orange Free State, which were Boer republics, to the British pre-existing colonies of the Cape and Natal. He also heavily sponsored British penetration of the provinces immediately to the north, which came to be called in Rhodes's honor Northern and Southern Rhodesia. We call them Zambia and Zimbabwe today, but Rhodesia is what they were named after him, and his tomb was at Victoria Falls. Rhodes was also a great believer in what he considered the destiny of the Anglo-Saxon or the Teutonic race. He was a great believer, as were many 19th century people of that sort, that the British, the Americans, and the Germans, and bear in mind, British for him included not just people living in the British Isles, but Anglo-Canadians, Anglo-South Africans, Australians, New Zealanders. He was of the belief that themselves, the Germans and the Americans, were endowed by God with a divine mission to civilize the world. Now, this sounds weird until you realize that the French felt the same way about themselves, the Italians, etc. But Rhodes was very successful at it. The other thing he did was that he endowed, because he wanted the elites of the British Empire, America, and Germany to be raised together so they would march together later and so forth. He endowed scholarships at Oxford to bring people from all these places to study there. And these are the famous Rhodes scholarships. He obviously was very much for the extension of British power and British colonial might. And today, of course, people are very upset with that idea. Just awful, gee willikers. And so at Oxford, there's been all sorts of things about getting rid of his statue and all that. I'd be in favor of that if they also got rid of the money that goes to the university from Rhodes's estate.
Yeah.
So, like, they could get rid of the awful, evil statue of the awful, evil colonialist and get rid of his awful, evil money.
Hmm.
Because, see, I don't believe that you should be forced to take money from somebody you figure was awful and evil. You should just go back to whatever dump you come from and live there and stuff. whether it's in England, America, Germany, or the third world, or anywhere. Because, like, you shouldn't be taking money from evil colonialists. You should just sit in your native squalor, whether that's New York or Nairobi, and shut up. But unfortunately for the Rhodes Scholarship people, that bit of reality will be denied them, since apparently most of the trustees of the Rhodes Foundations are woke. Um, which, of course, they share with a lot of other WASP organizations in the Anglosphere. Basically, you can tell a woke organization because it critiques its founder as being a racist or a sexist or a speciesist or whatever it is. If these people were really not hypocritical, they would immediately quit their jobs, their lucrative positions that were made possible for them by these evil people, and start something on their own that would reflect their own perfection. But I don't see a real stampede of perfection woke people doing that. The Round Table was a group he founded, which was, again, to coordinate the empire, Germany and America, and so on, to the degree that they could. It continues today as sort of a rah-rah group for the Commonwealth, like the Royal Commonwealth Society, like the Daughters of the British Empire, or the Imperial Order of the Daughters of the Empire, like the Victoria Friendship League, stuff like that. Milner's kindergarten. Milner was the High Commissioner in South Africa, and I think he was Governor of the Cape in the immediate aftermath of the Lord Milner of the Boer Wars. And he basically trained a lot of younger civil servants and so on, both in terms of how to do their job and in terms of policy. It was called the kindergarten because A, he was the teacher, and B, so many of them went on to major positions themselves. As far as World War I goes, well, several things at play. A lot of nationalist feeling, which wanted to express itself through killing people of other nationalities. Certainly a lot of the British ruling circles, especially in the then reigning Liberal Party, really were worried about the rise of Germany and the rise of the dreadnoughts and so forth. Interesting thing is that in 1913, Archduke Franz Ferdinand and his wife, Sophie, the Duchess of Hohenberg, went to England to a shooting party that lasted a week or more, and also present were the leaders of the Conservative Party. Knowing Franz Ferdinand as I do, from having studied him on the book, I suspect that he was arranging his own foreign policy. He was always wary of too much dependency on the Germans. And I think that ultimately what he was looking to do was put together an alliance between Russia, Austria, and Britain, which would effectively keep the French and the British quiet, the French and the Germans, who were ready to fight one another, quiet, and pursue peace in the Balkans. That's my guess, but we'll never know. I think it was a combination of things in terms of the outbreak of the war. Certainly, in every major power, there were people who saw the war in the ruling circles. There were people who saw the war, any war, as a quick solution to various long-term problems. This was a mistake, of course. There were also a lot of people who felt that war was necessary so that their countries could become fully alive, fully functional, etc. But it was a very complex thing, very, very complex indeed. What is certain about it is that it was not only useless, it was horrifically tragic. And no one was spared. I mean, when you look at how many of the ruling circles lost their younger sons in that war, it's amazing.
Could Charles speak on Kaiser Wilhelm II? The typical historical narrative is that he was an outdated, incompetent individual, but I have noticed that certain Catholics have an affinity for him that suggests this is an unfair assessment. What are your thoughts?
I think it is unfair. I mean, he wasn't a hero in the same sense that Kaiser Karl was, but he certainly was a much better person than he's given credit for. He was very devout in a Protestant way. And his withered arm had been a problem for him from the beginning, but he overcame it, learned to ride and all that. And you usually find with people who overcome grave handicaps that they're very self-reliant, tough characters. Unfortunately, he, during the course of the war, he basically, under the press of events, he gave up control in Germany to Hindenburg and Ludendorff, which was probably not a smart move. But I think he gets a lot of terrible press, and I think he was a much better individual than people give him credit for.
Finally, as someone deeply fascinated with history, I love book lists and author suggestions from reliable sources like yourself. Some of the best books I've read this year are Liberty or Equality and Leftism Revisited, both by Eric von Kunet-Ledeen, and suggested by this show. Additionally, I have begun to work through the bibliography of Star Spangled Crown, which I have found to be a great resource. The only problem is that, for obvious reasons, this bibliography is largely limited to the Anglo countries. So my question is twofold. Number one, what are some of the best books and authors on the Latin countries, as well as the Germanic countries and Central Europe, that you would use if you were to assemble a similar biography or bibliography?
Well, there's a book called Catholic Political Thought, 1789 to 1848, which I would recommend by a fellow called Bela Menzer, Menczer. It's actually available online. And it deals with a lot of these thinkers, both French and German language and Spanish. So I would really recommend that book as an introduction. I'd recommend another book called They Lived the Faith by, I think, Walter Neil, Neill, but certainly Neil. It also goes into people of non-Anglo nationalities. So I'd recommend both those books as a start. Bela Menzer, Catholic Political Thought, 1789 to 1848, and They Lived the Faith. Start there.
What are some of Charles's favorite historians generally? I am always blown away with his grasp on the subject and can tell that it comes from a lifetime devotion to the study of history.
Can't argue with that. But I would say Bernard Fay, Fay umlaut, Eric von Kunet-Ledeen, of course, Hubertus von Löwenstein-Scharfeneck. There's a name for you.
That's a new one. That's a new one from you.
Oh, well, sorry. He wrote a book called The Germans in History, which I recommend very, very highly. Let me see. Of course, Thomas Molnar, the Counter-Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, who else?
Is Belloc in there?
Yeah, well, Belloc, Chesterton, Leon Duffy, who, you may or may not know Duffy as the...
What about, I was just looking him up, and he's Christendom Press,
Warren Carroll.
Warren Carroll. There we go.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah.
He's good. I'd also recommend Jane Lane, Janelane, who wrote historical fiction, but it's far more history than it is fiction. So those are all good.
Okay. A question from Rob.
Mm-hmm.
I am curious to know why Charles specifies the generation of 68 as opposed to just the 60s. I've seen this referred to elsewhere, so I know it isn't a Charles-ism. Oh, please also mention the 48ers. I suspect it must be a reference or connection to the socialist upheavals of 1848.
Well, going backwards, yes, you're absolutely right. That's what the 48ers were. They were refugees in the revolutions of 48, usually the socialist type, etc., who came to America after 1848, and they called them 48ers. So, as far as the generation of 68 goes, that's the European term for what we call the boomers or the hippie generation. The reason why they're called that is because in 1968, in France, Germany, Austria, and elsewhere, there were a series of student uprisings and riots and all that, which led to, in some places, government change, but certainly a lot of changes in the way society functioned, universities functioned, and all that. And they're called the Generation of 68 because that was the year of their greatest triumph, which is not really, of course, true. Their greatest triumph is running the show into the ground now. I would say that perhaps the corona confinement, uh, as far as matters of state go, and the shutting down of the church and the abolition of masses at side altars in St. Peter's are probably the greatest triumphs of that generation in the church.
What year was Woodstock and the Summer of Love?
Well, two different things.
Oh, are they? Oh, I always assumed that they happened in the same year. Okay.
They did not. The Summer of Love was in 67. If you're going to San Francisco. Then came 68, and then in 69 was Woodstock.
Hmm. Okay,
And
interesting.
a year later, the movie came out, which I saw as a child of 9, which I think was kind of a crazy thing to do. Why my parents let the Downses show it to me, I don't know, but they did.
Wait, what? What movie?
Woodstock, the movie of the festival.
Oh, I didn't. I've never heard of that actually. Okay, what? I mean, they just show clips of what happened.
Yeah. What I remember is a lot of rolling around in the mud, basically.
You were there.
No, it's what I remember from the film. If I'd been there, I wouldn't remember it.
I'm sure.
That's the old joke, if you remember Woodstock, you weren't there.
All right.
So that's why they call it the Generation of 68. And I use it because it also has a particular reference to the political rather than the Summer of Love / Woodstock thing.
Got it.
Is it copacetic?
It sounds more dramatic too. Like it sounds more precise than just the 60s in general. Like 68.
Yeah, well, that's when they thought they were alive. When they wrecked stuff, for really good, they really destroyed stuff. They were
Yeah.
really scummy, garbage people. And fortunately, they now run the show.
Mr. Franchini and Mr. Coulombe, what are some books and sources on creating a legal or political system based on church teaching? Is there any way to Catholicize a secular constitution? Secondly, have you read The Benedict Option or Live Not by Lies, both by Roger? And if so, what are your thoughts on his writing? Sincerely, Anonymous.
Well, first, I could recommend some books in English, but I'd be canceled if I did, because they're by 2 Irish priests I'm not allowed to mention.
Oh, I'll mention them then. I don't care. Father Fahey and Father Cahill. Father Cahill's Framework of a Christian State, which I've read,
Yep.
and it's got some articles that will blow your hair back. I'll tell you that, man. It's really something. And then Father Fahey, The Kingship of Christ and Organized Naturalism. Is that it? Or is
I
that
was the
something
Kingship of Christ in the Modern World.
in the modern world? Okay, he had several. Yeah, I
He
think.
did. Oh, with very similar titles.
You can get the latter from Loretto Publications, if I'm not mistaken. I believe that is actually for sale.
And I think you can find the first, The Shape of the Christian State, online.
For sure, at least. An independent publisher might have picked it up, but yeah, highly recommend it. Let's see. Okay. What is question from Sandra? What is your opinion of Ignatius Press?
Well, they do some great stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, and I really haven't read much of Rod Dreher's stuff, so I can't comment. I haven't
Oh,
read the
right.
Benedict Option and so on.
Yeah, neither have I.
And I've liked a lot of stuff from Ignatius.
Yeah, I like the stuff from the big shots, Pope Benedict and Cardinal Sarah. Those are their big money makers.
Sarah.
Indeed. Final question for the pre-show is from
All right.
William.
Hello, William.
This is a question primarily for Charles. My wife is a German speaker. However, she has had little occasion to use it in day-to-day life for years, and so it is being lost to her. She was thinking about watching German television shows in order to keep it up, but unfortunately much German programming seems to be worse on the gay propaganda front than even the BBC. Charles, can you recommend any good German language television shows and movies that can be enjoyed even by people who care about moral character?
Oh, sure. There are a lot of old German language films on TV. The Feuerzangenbowle, the Kaiser Waltz, a ton of these 1950s era German films, German language films about Austria-Hungary before the war. Very often musicals. Good stuff.
My favorite German film is Das Boot. That was one of my dad's favorites too. I should have mentioned it on the last pre-show episode. That's a German U-boat film.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you seen that one?
Yes.
Yeah. I thought that was well done.
Boat.
Yeah.
So there's actually a lot of good old German movies in the 50s and 60s you could watch.
Okay. That'll do it for the pre-show.
Well, in that case, ladies and gentlemen, we need to wish you a very happy Easter, which is still continuing. Yesterday was only the first day. But remember, you've got Easter Sunday, Easter Monday, Easter Tuesday, Easter week, the Easter octave. And then we're going to begin the countdown, the 40-day countdown. Well, it'll be out in Easter, but you'll have roughly 30 days left to the Ascension, which is, of course, on a Thursday, even if certain silly people make you celebrate it on a Sunday. It's really the Thursday. And wait, there's more, because after that will come Pentecost Sunday. And then after Pentecost comes Corpus Christi and the Feast of the Sacred Heart. And then we'll be in the summer. And that will be the end of the temporal cycle. And the adventure that started the first Sunday in Advent comes pretty much to an end. And the rest of the year, the Sundays after Pentecost or after Trinity, up until Advent, are basically about teaching the faith. And then you've got it interspersed with various important feast days. But the circle of the year is turning again, ladies and gentlemen. A year we've been under lockdown. Yeah. So remember, when they had us put on our masks, they took off theirs. That's why those bunny suits are very, very, very effective.
I'm going to say something completely random.
Okay, random's good.
Have you seen Donnie Darko?
No, I know what it's about. I know it's got the kind of odd-looking guy.
In the bunny outfit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It's one of the most overrated movies in the history of the world.
Ooh.
My generation, they just eat that up, but I can't stand that movie. I think it's a horrible movie. Okay, but the bunny suit thing reminded me of Donnie Darko.
I liked random.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind, like, we're at a party, somewhere for somebody's graduation or a baptismal party or something, and you just start in with, I hate Donnie Darko.
Donnie.
Whatever. Donnie Darko. I hate Donnie Darko. I mean, apropos of nothing. I think that'd be great.
That would be great because surely I would trigger somebody. I knew I would get somebody. I could, it's like fishing. I could just toss it out there and I would catch 100%.
You'd be able to reel in the moron.
Yeah.
With
Absolutely.
your Donnie Darko bait.
Yeah.
You see him struggling on the hook.
Okay. Hope you guys have enjoyed the pre-show. Full episode.
Stick around. Stick around. Don't touch that dial.